Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Man, what a fun time of the year where we get to start talking about the PGA Tour and bringing in Brady Cannon for his picks. And, Brady last year, he comes on the show and he's like, keep an eye on this guy like 1,000,000,000 to 1. And look, full transparency, here's sort of what would happen if I would say last year. So some of these guys you can't even bet like their finishing spot because they're just like not even on the board. So I think Brady hit like one or two, but really what would keep happening, Brady, is that you would be giving us these like 50 to 1s, and they would like be right there to win in the end. Like you would like the final day, and then something would come up short. I have a feeling you're gonna hit a really, really big one this year because you were close on so many. Like I want to say like 3 or 4 different times on the PGA tour, a monster dog almost came in.
Yeah, and we great to be back here with golf season, and you love to have this confluence of the college football national championship, golf getting underway, the NFL heading towards its crescendo, and the Super Bowl and the playoffs. Yeah, so this is really good stuff. College basketball obviously coming to the forefront. We nailed a couple. I hit. It was at Torrey Pines last year for the Farmers. We hit Harris English at 110 to 1. That was a
That's what it
beauty.
was. Yeah.
But you're right, and that's a good sign. I mean, if you've got guys finishing in the top five and you've got a guy in contention every Sunday, certainly that's fun. That's part of the sweat. And then eventually those typically turn into victories. And we did have a handful of them last year. We closed out strong with Tommy Fleetwood at the Tour Championship and then Hideki Matsuyama in the Bahamas back in December. We hit Matsuyama at the Sentry to begin the season last year. And the Sentry was canceled this year, unfortunately, because of drought conditions in the Maui area. So we start here at the Sony, and let's try and start the year with another winner.
All right, before we get to the odds for the Sony this week, let's talk about the big story in sports and really in golf, where we've seen the first chip fall, as they say. Brooks Koepka, who was fantastic on the PGA Tour and had good success, by the way, on the LIV Golf Tour. I don't want to disparage him in any way. Has decided to return to the PGA Tour. There are some restrictions. He's got to make some charitable donations. He's not eligible for some payouts. Brady, you know this better than me. Why do you think it's him? And why do you think the choice that he made was now? Because as far as I can see here, Live Golf is rolling on.
Well, they are, but they just took an awfully big hit, and it opens the window for other guys like John Rahm and Cameron Smith and maybe Tyrrell Hatton. I don't know. I really believe there's probably only 3 or 4 guys that the PGA Tour really cares about having back. To be honest with you, I was kind of looking at the lineup yesterday, and I counted 12 guys in total that maybe would make a difference, but probably really only about 3 or 4. DeChambeau, of course, being one of those. I think the penalties that they outlined for Koepka are fantastic. I think it's perfect. It is punitive, but it's fair. You've got to levy some sort of fine, so to speak, for defecting, and I think they've done a wonderful job of being equitable and punishing him a bit at the same time. I think Brooks ultimately wants to be playing with the best. And I think, it's awful attractive when you get offered hundreds of millions of dollars to go play on the other side of the world, so to speak. And we understand that. But, I think eventually it kind of wears off. And I think it's already starting to wear off on John Rahm, and it did with Koepka. And he wants to be, the deal with Koepka, the most important thing has always been the major championships. And he's qualified for those for a few more years. But I think he wants to get back in the mix here. And, money can't buy you love, right? So it was fun while it lasted. But this could be the beginning of the end. You look at the live, who's on the live circuit these days. It looks like an old man's tour, Craig.
Yeah, it does.
Lee
Yeah.
Westwood, Graham McDowell, Phil
Right.
Mickelson. I mean, it's kind of becoming the middle ground between
Senior
the
tour.
Champions Tour, right? The PGA and the Champions Tour. So anyway, I'm really thrilled to have him back, and no better place for him to debut than Torrey Pines at the Farmers Insurance. So I'm excited for that.
I remember those days of Chichi Rodriguez out there on the senior tour, and maybe
Right.
you're right. Maybe that's sort of what it's coming to. Okay, so the Sony Open, Has some names we know. Obviously, look, the big one is next week at the American Express, and we'll talk about that. But we got a little appetizer to get Brady ready for his picks this year. Russell Henley is the current favorite. You all know him. Hideki Matsuyama, certainly. Now J.Spaun has become a guy on the PGA Tour after the fantastic year that he had last year. Morikawa's 19-1. Ben Griffin 19-1 as well. Siwoo Kim 20-1. Robert McIntyre feel like he let me down a few times last year. I feel like Robert McIntyre did. I can't remember. Every year is different. So let's go, Brady. Give us any ideas you have this week. We won't hold it against you. We'll put the pressure on you for next week.
Well, yeah, next week that guy, Mr. Scheffler, returns to action, and I have a feeling he's going to be tough to beat once again in 2026. But yeah, very good field here with some of the top players in the world. As far as the short shots, I landed on Ben Griffin. You know, his last 6 tournaments to close out the year, he did not finish worse than 12th, and he closed just a couple of months ago with a win at Tiger's event down in Mexico. And you talk about a coming out party for J.Spaun. Same thing for Ben Griffin, you know, on the Ryder Cup team. And what I really like is he won at Colonial. I think there's a lot of crossover connection with Colonial and YLA Country Club here, the home of the Sony Open. We've seen a lot of guys have similar success at both golf courses. So I think he checks a lot of boxes here. Played him as far as the shorter shots, went down a little bit deeper to Maverick McNeely. The nappy factor, Craig. Maverick McNeely just became a father. And sometimes when you have a new child, it gives you a sense of calm and also refocuses you that you have to understand that you have to provide for the family. We've seen this phenomenon translate to success on the PGA Tour before. And of course, he's a good player. So I think McNeely makes some sense. And then a couple of longer shots, Chris Kirk, who's done marvelous work here. He's also won at Colonial in the past. And then a long bomb, 110-1 with the Irishman, Seamus Power. So we'll see if we can start the year with somebody that gets home on the leaderboard this week at the Sony.
Seamus Power, man. If he wins that one, we're bringing Brady on for like 10 segments next week. Thanks again, Brady. Appreciate it. We'll be right
You got
back.
it. Thank you, guys.